Hi Leos, and welcome to your February 2019 Astrology 33 reading. For a minute, it was looking like you guys were going to be the only ones that didn't get any extra cards that came out for you this month, but then finally in the outcome position, you ended up with a couple extra cards. And then we have two Oracle cards to go through, and a mudra card at the end to, tie everything together. So there's a lot to get through. So we'll start with the main spread, going through the cards one by one. Starting with the main situation, you guys have the Eight of Wands. So this is actually a card that represents the first 10 degrees of Sagittarius, and there's not anything going on in there right now. But this also is a card that can represent, oftentimes it's referred to as a card that represents a lot of communication being exchanged, usually online, text messages, could be phone calls as well, though. But given the fact that this is Wands, too, it could just be that you're taking on a lot of activity in general. You know, you guys naturally rule the fifth house as the fifth sign of the zodiac, and then you actually have Jupiter in your fifth house, which is the sign of Sagittarius. So that could just be almost like amplifying your normal Leo energy in a way, because Jupiter tends to expand whatever area of life it hits. And with you guys having that comfort and familiarity with the fifth house, since it's the one you naturally rule, when you get a transit like Jupiter to your fifth, that could definitely help in that regard. So you could just feel really energized, taking on a lot right now. And then in the challenge or obstacle position, you guys have the Magician card. So to me, this could just be saying that, especially with it in the challenge position, since it did come up in the upright, I feel like if anything, you're trying to, you have so much on your plate, you're trying to decide what you do want to work on manifesting. You might have so many options right now that's what you're trying to decide, what direction you best would like to go in. And also, in some ways, some people refer to this as a Jupiter card as well, which would again point to the fact that you have Sagittarius, Jupiter in Sagittarius right now, which is your fifth house. I actually view it as the South Node card, though, too. And the South Node is actually, it was in your seventh house for about the past 18 months, and recently moved into your sixth house. So this could just be saying this is regarding work as well, or just your day-to-day routines. Maybe you're looking to switch up some things in that area of life. And maybe you're just trying to figure out how best to go about it. You might have too many options, too many ideas of which way to go, and maybe you're not quite sure what to do just yet. In the foundation position, we have the Strength card. So, the Strength card is actually the major arcana for your sign, Leo, and to have it in the foundation, that, no pun intended, but it shows that you have a pretty good foundation for this month. Having your own energy in the foundation position is pretty powerful, especially when it's the major arcana version of that, too. So again, like I said, I really just feel like this is most likely probably the fact that you have Jupiter in your fifth house, which is the house you naturally rule. Not to mention Mars is actually in Aries, which is another fire sign. So, especially for those of you that are born around the middle of your sign, or, your moon or your rising signs around the middle of that sign. As I'm recording this, a day before that eclipse, basically, in your sign of Leo, that could just be saying that, that's a trine energy pretty much going on. It would be a grand fire trine for those of you who were born, or like I said, have a placement right in the middle of the sign of Leo. Because right now, you have Jupiter and Mars basically trining each other. And actually, Venus too, but Venus is going to be moving through a lot quicker. So that's not going to last as long, but, that could just have you feeling real energized in a lot of areas of life. All right, in the past position, we have the Hangman. This is normally a Pisces energy for me, so some of you certainly could have been dealing with a Pisces. That's definitely on the table. But this could just be showing that this was you going inward. Maybe now you're displaying all these energies, like we said, maybe because you have all that supportive energy going in your fire signs now, but maybe in the recent past you were more in a reflective mood, trying to figure out, okay, well, what do I want to tackle next? Especially if we look at the fact that if we place it back in the spread, the magician is pointing right towards the hangman. And that could be saying that, this was the challenge. You trying to decide, all right, what do I want to manifest? You feel you have that energy, you have the energy, you have that support going for you, but you're like, all right, how best do I want to manage this? So that could be what you were reflecting on in the past. But like I said, for some of you, you also could have been dealing with a Pisces, and that's also your eighth house too. So maybe you were dealing with some eighth house issues, intimacy, death, plenty of things that we could go over there. In the present position, we have the Lovers. So this is actually a major arcana card for Gemini. And I don't know why my camera won't focus right now, but yeah, this is the major arcana card for Gemini. So some of you, again, you could be dealing with a Gemini, but I'm just getting more of a vibe that this is basically an energy that's at play right now, especially because you guys will have a new moon in your opposite sign around the middle of February. So this could just be saying that there's a new connection coming around that would be healthy for you. Or maybe, you're trying to decide, do you want to enter into a love relationship? That's another thing that could be possibly on the table. And, if I look at this as if this is you taking on Gemini energy, right? Maybe with all that communication there, I don't really see anything going on in your third house. So I'm not really getting the vibe that that's what it is. And then there's nothing really going on in Gemini either. So I'm feeling this is more pointing to a connection. Sometimes people point to the Lover's card saying that it represents a choice, between two options. And we certainly see that energy playing out there. But for some of you, I'm really getting the vibe that this is pointing to some kind of connection. And, we'll see as we go along if that's how it ends up playing out. I don't know if there's a message behind the fact that that card refused to focus or if it's just coincidence, but maybe you could add something to that as well. In the near future position, we have the Eight of Pentacles. Yeah, see, this card focused right away. So I don't know if that was like a message in of itself that the Lover's card wouldn't focus or what. But anyway, the Eight of Pentacles, this is actually a Virgo card, the first 10 degrees of Virgo. So for some of you, especially, if you're Leo sun, maybe your Mercury is in those degrees, or maybe your Venus is in those degrees. But this could just represent you making the decision as well to focus on work. Now that we have the South Node in your sixth house, like I said, that could be forcing you to deal with that area of life a bit more than normal. And then Uranus is moving back towards your 10th house as well, which is another house that points to career. And right when you guys have that full moon in your sign, like I said, that's, prior to February. But for those of you, I'm probably going to post this right around the time of the eclipse. So for those of you who watch it then, that could just be pointing to the energy at play for you there, because you're going to basically, Uranus is technically in your 9th house. But it's so close, and it's going to be squaring your full moon and then the sun in Aquarius. So, that could be what shakes you out of energy. And two, it makes you decide, all right, you know what, I need to focus on career. So maybe that's what was going on with the Lover's card. Maybe there was a opportunity for you to get into a relationship on deck, but that was one of many options you might have been trying to weigh out, what direction you want to go in. And maybe you decided, what, when you went inward and tried to think about what you wanted to focus your energy on, if we look at the Magician's hand pointing in this direction, so it's like that's what you went inward to reflect on. What do I want to work on manifesting? You decided you wanted to invest in your career. So, that might not resonate for all of you, but that's really what I'm getting. The way I look at the cards, the way they lay out, if they're pointing to something else, I tend to connect those cards in that way. So that's what I'm seeing there. Now, in the position of your influence on the situation, we have the Seven of Swords. So this is a deceptive energy. So if this is the energy you're taking on, mean, do what you got to do, but usually this is not a good energy. So I guess if nothing else, if there's one good spot for it to come up, it'd be in your position, right? Your influence on the situation. But, for some of you, in a less serious note, this could just be pointing to a timeline. This represents the last 10 degrees of Aquarius. So this could just be talking about, when you decide to move on from something, because sometimes Seven of Swords is definitely viewed as deception a lot of times, but it's also sometimes in a less toxic level, could just be seen as leaving some things behind, like saying, okay, this is what I want to take with me. These are some things I want to leave behind. And that would at least support that dynamic that I see there, where you had so many options on the table and you're trying to decide, all right, what do I want to put my energy into? But I'm really getting the vibe looking at the spread that some of you are planning on leaving a relationship, and maybe not telling the other person. I know that there's no way that that's going to resonate for all of you, but I'm really picking up on that pretty strongly for at least some of you. And, yes, you have that lunar eclipse in your sign and then a new moon in your seventh house. Usually you think of the new moon in your seventh house as bringing a new relationship in. But it could just be the opposite as far as, with that full moon eclipse energy, you might decide, you know what, I just can't focus on a relationship right now, right? So that could be why you might end up just leaving and not telling the person. And the reason why I think that could definitely be that way that this card is playing out is because in the position of the environment's influence on a situation, we have the Nine of Swords. So, this usually represents anxiety, sleepless nights, someone just really worried about something, Um, so that would certainly line up if that's the dynamic. If the dynamic I'm picking up on is correct, especially you guys have the Fool at the bottom of the deck as well. I really have this feeling that some of you just might be leaving a relationship and not telling the other person that you're planning on doing so. Just poof, out in the middle of the night. No pun intended with the poof there, but we do have the Magician on the table too, right? So maybe that's, something that's been on your mind for a while. And maybe it's that eclipse energy, maybe that's what you've been thinking about, right? Do I want to continue this relationship? And then maybe for some of you, you decided, I'm out of here. Which is funny because Aquarius, I think, got a very similar message to that. And, at least the astrology seems to support that being more of a, it seems to align with that energy a bit more for them than it does for you because, they're having a full moon in their seventh house, which could lead to leaving a relationship behind. But, those axes that, the opposites, they do tend to work together in some way. So for at least some of you, I'm really getting that vibe that you're leaving a relationship and not telling someone. Now, to be fair, for some of you, seventh house isn't always romantic relationships. It can be partnerships of any kind. And sometimes I view this card as like, working on a hobby and maybe trying to find a way to turn it into a source of income. So some of you just might be leaving a job as well and not giving a 2 week notice. That's another dynamic. Um, like I said, especially with the Fool at the bottom of the deck. The Fool, yes, on the surface it might sound like someone being foolish, but it's more just about taking that impulsive, making an impulsive move. And with the fact that, like I said, you are going to have Uranus squaring the moon in your sign for that full moon, that could really bring that out of you. That's certainly a possibility. Um, so, yeah. That's what I'm getting though. It definitely seems like you're leaving something behind and not telling someone. Um, so I view that more as like infidelity, for example. Like I really don't get the vibe that you would be cheating on someone. That's often how this card could be taken. I just view it more like you're just leaving altogether and not telling the other person. Um, but yeah, I guess you guys go let me know if that resonates in the comments. In the hopes or fears position, we have the Four of Swords. So this is probably a hope, maybe you want to heal from something. And to be fair, maybe this person, maybe you're leaving them because they did do something wrong. Maybe at that full moon you find out that they've been doing something wrong and you decide, you know what, rather than even confront them about it, I'm just going to bounce. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just out. And maybe that's why you have that Four of Swords energy there, saying that, you just want to heal. But I mean, there's so much energy here that shows that you're really in a good place with all this. Like, this is the only really negative card that would point to you in any way. I mean, you have the Strength card in the Foundation. I see the Star card in the Outcome position. I mean, everything seems to be on the up and up for you. So I don't know if that's necessarily what that Four of Swords is, or maybe it's just you wanting to put it behind you, put the situation to rest, if you will. Maybe you don't want to physically rest or heal from something, you just want it to be over. That could be what's at play there. But again, the hopes over fears position, I always point out, it doesn't necessarily mean that whatever card you see there is gonna, whatever energy you see there is gonna play out during the month. It's just that something that's more on your mind more than anything. And like I said, when we get to the outcome position, this is where you actually had multiple cards come out. We have the Star card, which is the major arcana card for Aquarius. So, for some of you, this could just be pointing to the fact that the sun is going to be in the sign of Aquarius most of the month of February. And by the time I release this, too, the sun should just about be getting there. The Nine of Pentacles, which is actually another Virgo energy, ironically. So maybe some of you are dealing with Virgo. Like I said, you might have Virgo placements as well. And the Moon. So if I look at the Aquarius energy and the Moon, right, they're in the middle of this Nine of Pentacles. So to me, these two cards being together in the same position, this could just be pointing to a timeline, saying that during the Aquarius new moon, that's when you'll be free of this relationship, and enjoying being single. But, for some of you as well, it could just represent the full moon too, because, I mean, we have the, this would represent Aquarius and then the moon being opposite it, right? So when that opposition hits, the moon opposite the sun in Aquarius, that's when you step away from the relationship and become single. And like I said, for some of you too, this could just be leaving a job. But with the Star card, this does represent wish fulfillment sometimes. A lot of times it's, for me anyway, I view it as being freed from ego. The card before it is the Tower card, and I refer to this card usually as the dissolution of ego. So, maybe you guys have just gone through a growth cycle, especially because you had the North Node moving through your sign for the past 18 months or so. It moved into Cancer recently. And, that could be your inner world. So maybe that's where the moon comes into play too. And this could just be forcing you to look at how you might sabotage yourself too. Something to keep in mind there. Maybe it's saying that you have all these supportive energies on deck. Like I said, you have the, Mars is in Aries, which is a fellow fire sign. Jupiter's going to be in your 5th house for basically most of this year. And maybe it's saying with the Magician in the challenge position, your problem is utilizing that energy in a positive way. So this could just be saying that there's positive things on the table for you, and you might self-sabotage for some reason. I really get the vibe that that's going to resonate for fewer of you than the other messages, but for at least a few of you, that could definitely be what's at play there too. Because like we said, with this in the challenge position and the Fool card here, could be saying good things start to come your way, whether it is a new relationship connection that was coming your way and you push it away for some reason, or just being outright deceptive and knowing almost that you're gonna get caught, but still doing it anyway. So maybe for some of you, that's what this is pointing to as well. But yeah, the main message that I'm really getting here is you're leaving some kind of relationship behind, whether it's a romantic relationship or like some kind of a business partnership. And the main thing is, though, I don't think you're really giving them much warning, if any at all. So hopefully that resonates with some of you. All right, and then the first oracle card we have for you guys is Deep Knowing. There's the artwork for it, and it's number 43, if that resonates with any of you. We'll look at the messages for that. Okay, it says essential meanings: intuition, listening to the oracle within, empathy, hypersensitivity. So, if nothing else, that would point to the hangman energy you had in the past. But it says the oracle's message: intuition is the faculty that allows you to enter into a dialogue with Source, the consciousness that you are a part of but cannot see with the naked eye. It's perplexing that people are taught to ignore this natural capacity to navigate their journeys, to access their inner guidance. Know that you have an ability to read between the lines and find all the truth that was missing when the story was told. This deep knowing allows you to open the door to wisdom far greater than what is available in the limitations of human experience. You're given information that may make no sense whatsoever to the logical mind or five senses, but which is 100% correct and true. The trick is to listen and then to act accordingly. You're now invited into the sacred dialogue of deep knowing, so tune in and trust your vibes. They will be right. Ask and you will receive answers from unusual sources. So, even though that wasn't the flat out relationship message, the fact that I did mention maybe some of you, the reason you're leaving is because you found out someone else was being deceptive, and you're like, you know what? Instead of me even addressing this with them, getting into arguments or whatever, I'm just going to bounce, you know? So, that could be what that's pointing to there. Um, as far as you saying your intuition, because, like we said, with the hangman in the past position and the magician pointing to that, it could just be saying that, you know, you could trust what you were believing there intuitively. All right, the relationship message says there are occasions when you just know, deep in your heart and soul, that a person is going to play a meaningful role in your life. Someone crosses your path, and suddenly, out of the blue, you're connected at a level impossible to describe. That feeling marks a moment in time, etched indelibly onto your soul. Someone has entered your life who will be instrumental in your journey, so pay attention. Two hearts are calling to each other to begin an alchemical process. This is also a sign that your intuition about the person you care about is correct. Trust your heart to lead you now. Magic is about to happen. So, you know, another thing I would say too is, let's say, I already mentioned that with that eclipse you guys are going to be having in your sign, there's some tough energies there too. So it might make you act very impulsively, and maybe that's what this is pointing to as well. And then the trusting your intuition part, between the hangman and the past position, and the fact that we have the moon here too, um, you know, really try to access your intuition and see, you know, okay, maybe you reacted a little bit more volatilely than you normally would have because of those energies at play. And maybe you might second guess it, although I really don't get the feeling that you are going to second guess it. But just in case, for some of you, if that's what you go through and you are second guessing it, um, you know, it says trust your intuition there. So if you really feel deep down, like, you know what, no, I really know that they were doing what I thought they were, and that's why I left, then okay, take comfort in knowing that, all right, you were probably on point about that. And then for others of you, if you're like, hey, you know what, I don't know, maybe I just wasn't seeing things too clearly with the moon card there, you know, maybe I need to revisit this. Then that could be what's at play there. All right. The prosperity message says this is a time when your hunches will pay large dividends if you listen to them, take the risk, and act. Without you, there is an oracular consciousness, a higher and deeper knowing that transcends the imaginations of the smaller thinking mind. At the deep level of your intuitive senses, you have an access point to the genius of the collective, the energies of all thinkers and creators, all inventors and leaders, and all that you need in order to leap into success are available to tune into. This is an act of listening intently. Past the busy mind, your genius awaits. Okay, so maybe that's what it is too. And maybe that for some of you, if it did resonate that maybe you're leaving one job out of the blue, not even giving them a warning, maybe that's what it was. You know, maybe you're like, you know what, this job hasn't necessarily been treating me right all this time. I have this, you know, maybe this new offer comes out of the blue, and you're like, you know what, I gotta either let that offer go or jump on it now. And, you might not even have the option to, play out a 2 week scenario. They might say, we need you to start now. And maybe that's why you're just leaving. That's certainly going to be possible for some of you. All right, the next oracle card we have is from the Spirit Animal Oracle. And you guys got White Raven Spirit. It says, trust in the magic. There's the artwork for it. And number 66, if that resonates with any of you. So we'll take a look at what this says. Trust the magic is fitting because we see the magician there in the challenge position. So it could just be saying that maybe there's good things coming your way and you're skeptical. Maybe you're not trusting them. That's certainly a possibility. And maybe because you don't trust them, that could be what causes you to, almost operating on that eye for an eye level, right? You're thinking, oh, this person's going to do me dirty. I'm going to beat them to it. I don't know where that message came from, but it definitely seems like it does make sense, actually. So keep that in mind. But yeah, let's look at what it says in the book. It says, nothing in the universe is random, for the intricate web of co-creation weaves together all events and has done so since the beginning of time. Coincidences have meaning, and White Raven Spirit appears to remind you to pay attention to these synchronicities so that you might recognize patterns. Even the winds dance in a pattern, participating in the magic of Spirit's plan for all. Align with the highest good and intentions, and you will come to see that White Raven is guiding you, an ally to you and a messenger from Spirit. Align with the light, and you will start to recognize that all is working together harmoniously in ways the eye can't see and the mind can't always comprehend. The universe is conspiring on your behalf right now, drawing you to the light and bringing you the magic and miracles that are your birthright. Now is the time to trust in the magic of the world that is everywhere and in all things. Pay attention to how things come together as if by magic, and you will see the hand of Great Spirit arranging things in your favor. So again, maybe that is what it is for some of you. Maybe it's a relationship you guys have been in that you knew was toxic, and a new connection comes along, and you just get that impulse, like, you know what, I feel like this could be something special, and you leave the toxic relationship behind. For others of you, it could just be, like I said, a sudden job offer that comes out of the blue, and they're like, we would need you to start right away, and you knew you weren't happy in your other job anyway, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to leave this behind. And, there's a few ways the dynamic could play out, but hopefully that card gave you some additional guidance there. All right, and then lastly, we have the mudra card. So for those of you who didn't see last month, I started pulling mudra cards for all the signs, and basically what a mudra is, it's a gesture or a pose that you make with your hands to, the different poses help to clear different blockages in life. The key word for this one is authenticity, which I actually didn't notice that till just now. That's actually really fitting because, like I said there, if this is you, with that Seven of Swords energy, try to be mindful of that, especially because there's so much other good energy on the table. I wouldn't want you guys to throw that out of whack by operating in that low vibrational energy. But the mudra itself is called the Matangi mudra. And flip the card around here. And I'll let it focus so you guys can maybe take a screenshot of the messages if you wanted to look into it a bit more. All right, let me move it up a bit so you can see the rest. Okay, and as you can see here, it says facilitates diaphragmatic breathing, benefits the abdomen and abdominal organs of digestion, assimilation, and elimination, activates the power of spirit, improves discernment and self-honesty, improves the voice and ability to communicate inner feelings. So that's pretty cool too, actually. That improves discernment and self-honesty. Like I was saying here, if this Seven of Swords points to self-sabotage in some way, maybe that could actually really help you. I'm doing that mudra to help clear that out of the way. Like I said, with the North Node moving through your 12th house now, it could be helping you clear some of that sludge. The 12th house is sometimes seen as the house of self-sabotage, addiction sometimes, just self-destructive behaviors that we might have that we're not readily conscious of, but maybe with the North Node moving through that sign now, it's really going to bring those things into sharper focus for you. And if that's the case, this would be a great time, and basically for the next 18 months or so, great time to try to really work on that because the energies will support you doing so. All right, so we'll wrap up there, guys. If you want to get a personal reading with me, you could check out the About section of my channel for more info there. You could also follow me on Instagram where we have a little bit more fun with astrology and tarot. But if not, see you guys next month. All right, bye.